Thank you so much. Uh, okay, fine. So, am I audible? Perfect. If you can write it down in chat, anyone, am I audible? Yeah, cool. Fine. Okay. So, yeah. So, the agenda for today is going to be some practical sessions on what we can do with the help of Kali Linux, with the help of the knowledge that we are going to gain in this course, right? So yeah, that will be basically it. So there are three main things that we are going to see. One is social engineering, one is hacking into a Linux system, and one is brute force attacks, right? So we'll be going through three concepts, right? So the thing is that there's a thunderstorm outside. I hope the electricity doesn't fail on me, but yeah. So fine. So the first thing, yeah. So we'll recall about what we did last day. Last day we just discussed about the career opportunities, what we would provide to you in this particular course, starting from career guidance to resume to job application, job seeking help, as well as the course or that is obviously there. So yeah, we discussed about those. We discussed about some of the basic concepts of cybersecurity, like the CIA triad, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability triad. And then we proceeded forward to a general discussion of what we can expect from this course, right? So no matter if you are from a technical background or if if you are not from a technical background, it does not matter. Everything is going to be clear from the base up, so it's not going to be an issue, provided that you do your homework as well if you are having difficulties, because I personally don't believe in you know wasting time in something that is available on Google and very much self-explanatory and very easy to understand and available on the internet. So that is just a Google search away, so you can go through that. I, from my end, I am going to share everything that is related to cybersecurity related to the course. Right. So yeah. Question fine. Job opportunity from our side is a no, right? But job application seeking and where to apply for your jobs, how to apply, interview questions, and all of those help, including the resume making and review, is going to be provided by LWTX. Yeah, fine. So I'll share my screen. Yeah, if the PDF was not shared yesterday, it will be shared today. I told that it will be after the workshop session, right? It will be there. Right. So, quick poll, is my screen visible to everyone? I'll just open the chat to see. Is my screen visible?
Oh, yes, it's
Cool. Fine. So, yeah. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to discuss about the concepts. We're going to discuss about what are the things that we need to understand when it comes to security and what is the major tools that we will be using. So today our first agenda is going to be hacking into a Linux system, right? So we'll be using a tool called Metasploit framework, right? So Metasploit framework is like the ultimate, weapon that we use as cybersecurity engineers. That is the first thing that we go to. There are other frameworks that we'll be discussing in the course, but this is the main thing that we go to, right? So I have set up a Linux machine in VirtualBox, right, as my hacking lab, and we are going to hack that Linux machine, right? The setup of this lab is not part of this particular workshop call, but in the course, everything is going to be discussed in details on how to set up this lab as well in VirtualBox, in VMware, whatever suits your fancy, right? So Metasploit framework is basically so let's just take it as a question. What do you mean by framework? What do you think is a framework? If anyone can answer on chat. Anyone? Cool. So if there are no answers, I take that as a no. Fine. So how many of you heard about no, Purnima, that is not the definition of framework. But yeah, how many of you have heard about something called React, something called Angular? By framework, I am not meaning by the literal sense of framework. I'm talking about the IT framework and things like that. Okay. Spring Boot, right? So these are all frameworks, right? So it's basically a package of applications that is helping you to build something, right? In this case, Metasploit is helping me build an exploit, build a like a hacking attempt, right? So that is what we are going to use Metasploit framework for. And there are essentially 5 steps in hacking in Metasploit framework, right? Number 1 is search. All of these we are going to discuss in detail in today's session itself. Use, show, set, and exploit, right? So search is basically where you search for vulnerabilities, right? Use is I am using a pre-built exploit. So consider Metasploit framework as a database of previously made exploits or previously made hacks that you can perform on a particular vulnerability that you have found on a machine. Show is basically options, right? Options like what is the target IP, what is the target port, what is the URL and things like that, right? Set is finalizing the entire process that we have seen, finalizing the IP, finalizing the port, finalizing the URL, finalizing the exploit. And exploit is the final command that we use in order to hack into a system, right? I'll open VirtualBox where I have set up my machine. So it's a Metasploitable 2 machine, right? So let's just wait for it to boot up. And while that boots up, any questions?
Sir, yeah, I have a question. Like in SonarCube also we can scan for the vulnerabilities and the bugs.
Yeah.
So is it different or the same thing that?
No, SonarCube is completely different. SonarCube is what we call SAST, Static Application Security Testing, right? It finds bugs in your code, right? But this is finding exploits or vulnerabilities inside of your application or inside of the services that are running on your web server application and things like that. Okay. Once we go through, what we are trying to maintain, like what we are trying to demonstrate here, we'll get to know about it. Okay. Just take a round. If you find it, confusing after we are done, then, you can ask that again, right? So my machine has booted up. Since it is my machine inside of my system itself, I can see the IP address. It's 192.168.0.108. But if it was someone else's machine, we would have searched for that IP, right? So let's search for the IP that we are trying to find, or the service that is running, right? So since I know the IP, let me know if the font size is okay for y'all if it's visible. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yes.
Fine. So yeah, so what we are trying to do now is we are going to exploit a particular system. And for that, we are using Nmap, right? We are going to find what IPs we are scanning, right? So ifconfig inside of Linux gives you the IP address of your system, right? So mine would be WLAN 0, 192.168.0.107. This is my IP address, right? So going by the IP address table and things like that, IP addresses range between, each and every octet, or what are the numbers that we see here is an octet. It's basically 8 binary decimals. So 8 ones can go up to 255, right? So we can scan for an Nmap range of, let's clear this, Nmap or network map hyphen SS hyphen SV hyphen O. So these are Nmap commands. So what does Nmap commands do? There are a plethora of commands that are there, something that honestly even I can't remember. But these are the chestnuts of the Nmap commands. SS is basically a SYN stealth scan.
Still scan.
Yeah. So
Still scan.
yeah, SV is a version scan, scans for your versions.
OS is code is OS detection.
Yes, nice. So O is for OS detection. It searches for what are the operating systems that are running. And now you can, enter your 107, and the final would be something that ranges between 0 to 255. This scan is going to take some time. Hence, I'm not going to scan the entire IP address range. I'm going to scan the IP address of my machine itself, since I know the IP address. If it would have been someone else's machine, I would have scanned the entire network. So 108, let's start the scan. Let's wait for that to happen. While on the other window, okay, -PN. Let's wait for this. And on the other window, what we're going to do is we are going to start something called MSF console, which is the Metasploit framework. Let's wait for this. Right. So while these two happen, I'll show you the steps of hacking, or steps of, hacking in the perfect sense, right? What are the steps that I showed you here are specific to the Metasploit framework. And talking about the steps of hacking, I think an image is going to explain it a little bit better. Right? So these are the 5 phases of hacking, right? Right. So these are the 5 phases of hacking. It starts with reconnaissance, right? Reconnaissance is scanning, basically. So collecting data about someone before we start to hack, right? So reconnaissance. Then comes scanning and enumeration. The Nmap scan that we are doing here is a scanning procedure, right? So I'll do something. I'll make the scan even more faster by using something called aggressive scan. A is for aggressive scan. So we'll just have the results faster. That's it. Right. So then comes gaining access and exploitation that we are going to do next. Maintaining access and persistent. So it's not useful if you just hack into a system, right? You have to hack into the system and gain information from that, for which you have to maintain your access on that system. And finally is clearing tracks. You have to clear your tracks that you have entered into a machine, right? That includes clearing logs, that includes clearing the data that you have, put in, or the exploit shells that you have put in. It includes clearing all of those. That is the step of hacking, right? We'll wait for that. Yeah. So this is the Metasploit framework. So we are going to use the same commands that we have seen in our 5 steps of hacking: search, use, show, set, and exploit. So let this Nmap scan run. For convenience purposes, we know what the vulnerability is, right? The vulnerability in this system is an FTP vulnerability, right? A file transfer protocol, which is outdated, right? So the name of this service is called VSFTPD, right? So we are going to get these results in the Nmap scan. Since the Nmap scan is taking a little bit of a time, we won't waste it here. We know that this is the vulnerability, right? So everyone might have a question that, I've started with cybersecurity. It is like very difficult that I find a vulnerability and how do I hack it, right? So be rest assured that if you have a vulnerability and you have something called a CVE ID allocated to that, there is a hack available on the internet, right? And if you see a version that is, the best thing that starts after an Nmap scan is Google search, right? We search for each and every service that we have found. We search for each and every version of that service that I have found. We search for each and every protocol that is running, right? And we check if there are vulnerable versions of the service running. Mind you, this is an interview question, right? The interview question goes like, what is vulnerable in a system, right? Is it a service? Is it a different thing other than service, right? The answer is, it is never a service that is vulnerable. It is the version of service that is vulnerable, right? So take, for example, a gym, right? It is not the human who is weak. It is the human who has not trained that is weak, right? If you train enough, you can obviously lift that dumbbell someday, right? So it is the version of you that is weak. It is not you that is weak, right? Same goes for services as well. It is a version of the service that is weak. So we know that VSFTPD is a service that is running, which is outdated, hence it has a vulnerability, right? So what we are going to do with the first step that we discussed, right? Can anyone recall what was the first step? Search, right? So search.
Reconnaissance.
No, that is the steps of hacking, right? I'm talking about the Metasploit specific one, right? So search. What are we going to search? We are going to search VSFTP, right? So we searched for VSFTPD and see, Metasploit framework gives me a description and a proper exploit for the vulnerability that I have, which is in VSFTPD, right? So let's see, let's copy this. And what is the next step? Use. So we are going to
experts, predefined experts.
Yeah. So we're going to use this vulnerability, right? Our vulnerability is set. I'll clear the screen, right? So our vulnerability is set. Search, use. The next step, show. So show options. So what are the options that I have, right? So see, there is C host, C port. It is not required, right? Proxy is not required. R hosts, which is required. R host refers to remote host. Remote host is the IP address of the machine that I'm trying to hack, right?
Arun, sorry to interrupt you. Can you please zoom out some the screen so we can look clearly?
Is that fine?
Yeah, it's now fine. Yeah, good. Good. Looks good.
Fine. So we're going to set. So search, use, show is done. Now I am going to set my options, right? Set R hosts, and the IP address of the machine that I'm trying to hack, which in this case is 192.168.0.108, right? And hit enter. So our R hosts are now connected, right? For a fair comparison, okay, this is the network scan that we did. right? So you can see that it shows me a lot of results, right? Trace route results, OS service detection, right? So we can find vulnerabilities and services in this. So for a fair comparison, I'm going to do a PWD here, right? Or I'm going to do a who am I, which is going to give me my machine information. So let's do a PWD. PWD/root, right? So this is my computer that I am in. So since I've set my command, the last step is exploit. Let's exploit this. Let's wait for a backdoor service, found shell. Right? Command cell session 1 open. Let's do a PWD here. PWD is just a slash. This is not my computer. This is my virtual machine that is running. So we are inside of the computer that we are trying to hack. Right? For a comparison, let's go. Inside of Metasploitable, we have our machine running. Let's do an ls root sbin. This is all of the, if it would have been a legitimate machine somewhere, this would have been data that I can capture, right? I can go into directories. I can see all of the data. I can go to cd user, right? So it does not give me a very well-versed shell as per se, but it gives me a command line interface to interact with the computer that I have hacked. If I do a PWD, see, /home/user, who am I? Root, right? So I have gained root access or administrator access to this machine. This was how to, hack into Metasploitable 2. Now, what is Metasploitable 2? It's the machine that I'm running, obviously. It's a machine that is deliberately made vulnerable in order for Metasploit exploits to be checked, right? It's deliberately made vulnerable in that way, right? Cool, everyone. Anyone having any questions that I can answer?
Yeah, I have a question. Like, if host enabled UFW, then what should, like, is it possible to?
You mean behind a firewall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is possible. So there are techniques to evade a firewall, to bypass a firewall, right? So say, for example, I'll give you a live example. I'm a security guard, right? And you are trying to, smuggle in maybe an AK-47, right? So if you carry the AK-47 on your back and you are trying to enter my building, I would catch you immediately, right? Because I'm able to see that AK-47 maybe in your bag as well if I scan for it, right? But what if you team up with, 10 other people, right? And you disassemble the AK-47, keep one part of the gun in your bag, right? Now, no one is actually going to notice such a small part being there divided amongst 10 people. And then all of you 10 people go inside the building, assemble it, and then you have your gun ready, right? So same goes on with firewalls as well. You can send your data packet as it is going to detect it, right? Break your data packets into small sessions and it's not going to detect it. It's going to pass all of the packets and your packets go there and merge itself. This is called fragmentation. Right? Clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Fine. Any other questions?
Sir,
Yeah, sure. Tell me.
in this case, the IP address that we were trying to means hack, that was known to us because of the it was our own machine. But what if we target another user which is unknown to us? So how can we get an IP address of that machine?
Okay, so the Nmap scan that I showed you, right? So the last part that I am entering as 108, since I know the IP address, all I need to do is enter a range of 0 to 255. Right? It's gonna scan the entire IP range for that. Okay, this was for internal networks, right? For external networks, it's a very different game. You have to gain VPN access, you have to proxy, and then you have to hack into that system in order to scan someone else's system. but we are just going to focus on machines which is in our local area network. Fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just exit from this session. I will close my virtual machine because
One second.
Yeah, sure. Tell me.
Are these Linux machines?
Yeah, these are all Linux machines.
So from one machine you have hacked other machine, like, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So for that you need to require a user and password of that user, right?
No. The vulnerability that I have exploited is a boot to root vulnerability, right? So it directly logs you into a privileged session that is called the administrator access. Okay. If it would have been something like, not a boot to root vulnerability or not a highly privileged vulnerability, you would have gone into a user. Okay. Because each and every service is authenticated by a user. You will definitely enter as a user, and then you have to gain your access or privilege your access to the administrator user to get all of your data.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I'll minimize this as of now.
Can we target our machine like a victim, or maybe we can be attacker on like WLAN, because we are doing a local area network. So how can we go with the on another IP address like WLAN area network?
Another LAN network, right?
Yeah. No, not in a local area network.
Okay.
Public IP address. Like that
So
can be anything.
if it's a public IP address, it's already accessible to you, right?
Okay.
You can run a scan on that.
Okay.
Okay, so if it's a private IP that you are, say, for example, what we do as cybersecurity engineers, we try to pen test into someone else's organization, right? So if someone else's organization is in a different office, it has its own different IP address, has a different lease line connection for internet and things like that. So what we try to do there is something called pivoting. We try to go, gather a VPN access, proxy ourselves. We do something called proxy chaining, which means that my IP address goes to another proxy, then another proxy, then another proxy, so that no one knows that it's me, right? And then we try to access someone else's, network.
Like just now we hacked into your virtual machine, like entered in your virtual machine. If that machine connected with other network like internal organization, so that we can hit to other IPs also in that particular network.
Yeah. So if say let's not go into the process of how I hacked into another system. Okay. So say I have another system in another office.
But I have another question for that. Like, if I hit that same IP, but they installed failed to ban or some other firewall that if we hit 5 times, then they will block us. So we can bypass that also.
Yeah, change your IP address with every single hit. That's available on Kali Linux.
We can change our IP.
Yeah. It's called IP spoofing. So each and every time that I hit, with my from my machine, I can change my IP address, right? So it's a process in itself, right? So what we usually do is, limits are set like 5 hits in such and such time, right? So we try to slow our scans down. I do 1 hit now. I do 1 hit after 5 minutes. I do another hit after 5 minutes, right? This is what actual hackers do in real life. Nmap scans or these types of scans that on a system can go on for days, right? So this is called delay in scan, right? And these kinds of hackers that scan your system for days, take weeks to hack into your system, are something called APTs, advanced persistent threats, right? So that answers your question.
Yeah,
cool, fine. So yeah, I'll just quickly grab some water. Just give me a minute.
And can we get that recorded sessions? Like if we register?
You'll get the recorded sessions.
I don't know, maybe the last question I want to ask you. Can I?
Sure.
Now, the thing is that still we are going on the local area network. I don't want to talk about the local area network. The thing is that I want to know is if I go and just write on what is my IP on Google, or maybe it can give me the public IP address.
That's your public IP, yeah.
Yeah. It will give me the public IP. The thing is that I want to ask that same process will be applied or something else will be different, because I want to do the port forwarding, because entire I don't want to test on the local area network that the computers that are on my local area network. I want to test out of these bodies. So how can I just go with this entire shell? Can I explain some kind of things which I can go with that? Or maybe you can just explain or show us over here.
Okay, so that is actually a big process in itself when it comes to, you have your public IP address, and then you have to, because inside of a system does not understand its public IP address. That is not the language that it speaks. Inside of the system, it just speaks with its internal IP address, right? So even if you get a public IP address, you have to pivot to its internal IP or get into its network in order to have access to what are the things that we are trying to hack. Now it's a completely different story if it is a public IP address of an application that is running, right? Maybe it's a website, maybe it's a application, maybe it's a portal or something of that sort. If you get the public IP address of that, you can directly scan using Nmap as we did, right? And that is, that is all that you do.
Okay, the thing is same that we have to change the from public to from local IP address to public
To
IP.
the public IP address. Yeah.
Definitely, that's my answer. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, cool. Fine. So next up, what we're going to do is the probably the most interesting thing that we are going to do today. We are going to hack into a Facebook account, right? Without the two-factor authentication enabled, because that is a separate thing in itself. Say I have a Facebook account which is not authenticated in two-factor authentication. This is how people do it nowadays, right? So as silly as this may look, right, as useless as it may look, or as obvious that it may look, that it's a phishing website or something like that, believe me, 95% of people, or 95% of hacks that happen in large companies that we see in the news daily are because of phishing attempts, right? So this is one of the most interesting parts of cybersecurity, my favorite, to be like, in my personal opinion. So we're going to use a tool called Zfisher, okay, or Zfisher, however you may pronounce it. Zfisher is basically a phishing tool. It creates a phishing website. So what is a phishing website? It's basically a website that looks like another website, but is actually a clone of the original website that I have generated on my machine, right? So I'll start Zfisher, right? So it gives me a plethora of options: Facebook, Instagram, Google, Microsoft, Netflix, and so on, right? Even Xbox, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to, stick with Facebook, select an option. We choose option 01. What page of Facebook do we want to, replicate? The traditional login page, the advanced voting poll login page, fake security login page, messenger login page, right? I'll stick with the traditional login page, right? And it has 3 options of, forwarding your service. One, you can do on localhost, which we are going to do since it's for a demo purpose. Second is Cloudflare and local expose, right? These are port forwarding services. Anything that is running on your machine, it will give you a URL to that. You can send it to someone else. If they click on it, they are going to land on your phishing page, right? I'm going to do localhost for now. I don't want a custom port, so I'll select N, right? So it's successfully hosted at this, right? So let's, go to http://127.0.0.1, which is localhost, port 8080. See, it's a Facebook page, right? So let's enter an email address, say arun@gmail.com. And let's enter a password, anything 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and log in, right? You see that it gives you an error, right? And it has redirected you to the original facebook.com page, right? So this is something that is weird, that looks weird, that has happened. But in the backend, victim's IP, this, it shows localhost because it was my machine. Account arun@gmail.com, password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So it has captured my request, right? So these are the things that you can do with a phishing tool like Zfisher, right? And
Excuse me, sir.
sure, tell me.
Uh, can we do it in global host
What's
like Cloudflare and other one?
yeah, you can do that. It has the Cloudflare service inside of it as well.
But
Okay.
does it work? Because
Yeah, it does. It
I have
does.
tried and it didn't go like I like the way it should.
Mm, now, if it's not the way
Arun,
you
can we
like,
try if you want to? If we not waste our time, I understand.
yeah. So let's try. Okay. Let's clear this. /Zfisher. Right. Let's do a Facebook page again. A traditional login page. Right. 02 for Cloudflare. I don't think I have Cloudflare installed, but yeah. Starting a PHP server, logic Cloudflare. Now Cloudflare is, I think it needs to be, configured. Yeah, do you need to change mask URL? No. Right, so this is probably the link that I need to share. Copy selection. Okay, who asked that question?
It's me, Ranish.
Ranish, are you joining from a laptop or a mobile phone?
Mobile phone.
Okay, anyone joining from a laptop?
Yes, sir.
Shubham, right. So Shubham, I'm pasting a link on, okay, like it's just for Shubham, okay? No one else clicks on this, okay? Shubham, I'm sending a link on, chat, okay? So click on this link, open it in a new tab and enter any detail that you want. Please make sure that is not your personal detail,
Yes, sir.
okay? Try it. Let's see if we get results. And you see that this is for everyone else. It creates a URL. This is, no one has actually gonna know about this, but it creates a URL which is very lucrative as well. Blue verified badge for Facebook, free, right? So it makes it lucrative. You can even change it. The option that I chose not to, you can also change it to your liking, right? And you can, have a lot of fun with it. Shubham, are you trying this?
Sir, actually, it's showing an error.
What is the error?
It is some tunnel error.
Tunnel error. So it's not, Cloudflare is not configured on my system properly. So that's not an issue. So really sorry for that. I should have configured it prior to this, but I'm sure you can do this. And I'll even, provide resources or maybe make a separate video apart from this workshop in order to provide you with the information that you require to set up Cloudflare and to port forward your service. Fine. So yeah, any other questions that I can answer from the social engineering part?
This Gfisher tool, can we install in any Linux OS or?
Yeah, any Linux OS. It is available on GitHub. I am sending you the link to Zfisher right now. The link to Zfisher GitHub is in the chat. Everyone can, view it and, clone it into your system. The instructions are given here as well. So just follow along, right? Mind you,
Okay.
please don't use it for something else.
Okay.
Right. And even, this is a disclaimer for what we have seen up until now itself. The Nmap scans that I am doing, if you find a website and you find its IP address, please don't scan that website without, a proper intervention, right? It is illegal to do that, right? That's all I can say.
Okay.
Cool. So let's go back to root, right? Now we're going to see some, basic things like inside of Metasploitable Linux, right? I had the IP address 192.168.0.108. If I open it in a browser, Metasploitable comes with its own suite of, uh, you know, platforms that I can test my vulnerabilities on. One of such platforms is called DVWA, Damn Vulnerable Web Application, right? So Damn Vulnerable Web Application is basically a deliberately vulnerable web application in order for you to test on what is like if your vulnerability is feasible or not. It's for you to practice, right? So this is something that I want to show you, right? Also, there's another one called brute force that we'll be seeing in a while. So user ID, right? It's searching for a user ID, plain and simple as that, right? But what if I enter something like 1 is equal to 1 or 1, right? And I submit. See, it gives me first name admin, surname admin. So I am logged in as a admin user, right? This is something known as a blind SQL injection. Okay, we don't need to, we won't dive deep into SQL right now, but let's talk from common knowledge. Inside in computers, what does one mean?
Flow of current on.
Yeah, in like what Boolean value does it mean, or what does it
Yes,
signal? It means true,
True.
right?
true.
Okay. Now let's talk from the point of view of class 11 physics. Uh, OR operation, right? OR operation is known as an addition in, computer language. Is equal to as it is. So 1 is equal to 1 plus 1, right? So 1 plus 1 will always be equal to 1 in the language of binary, and 1 is equal to 1 or true is equal to true plus true. This is something known as an always true statement in SQL language, right? So what is happening in the background is obviously this application, and every single application has a database that is attached to it. When you enter your user ID and your password, it checks from the database. It checks whether, hey, do I have a user that is named Arun, right? And then it's the database says, yes, we do have an Arun in our username base. So once again, he asks for the web application, asks for your password, goes back to the database. Hey, for the user Arun, is this the password? The database says yes. So it returns a 1 and you are logged in, right? So we are just manipulating that the user ID field will always send a true to the database, and the database is also going to return a true value, right? This was a blind SQL injection. So it might sound like something that is, not non-existent or something like that, or it might sound like something that is, not used. So there's a website that actually still uses this. Let's just see if this is the website. No, this is not. There's another techno traders. Let me just find that. And trust me, there are a lot of websites that have this vulnerability still. Okay. This is logged in itself. So I don't think I can find the website. But if you find a lot of websites with, PHP, right? You can search for inurl.php. So you'll get a lot of websites with PHP. Usually, these vulnerabilities are found in these types of websites, right? So same, for example, if you search for something like HTTP, in URL, ID is equal to 1, right? So if you see a page, right, if you come across a page with the URL that ends with PHP question mark ID is equal to 1, you can be rest assured that this is using a database to fetch its pages, right? ID is equal to 1 is this. ID is equal to 2, maybe it might be another page, right? We in cybersecurity consultancy identify this as a vulnerability, right? URL alteration. Okay, so you can be rest assured that there is a vulnerability for SQL injection if a page ends with something like ID is equal to 1. Okay, fine. XSS. Wait a second. XSS tautologies. So if you use too much of any URL and things like that, your computer might ask a lot of questions like these. Images with cars. Okay. Sorry for this, guys. This is just a part of it. Oh my God. So yeah, if there is any question, please let it out while the time that these things take place. Guys, any questions?
No.
No? Cool.
Yeah. I think I've looked at that like can hit into any PHP site, right? That are hosted behind the
Not
PHP.
exactly any PHP site. It's like most of the PHP sites that use that kind of framework or that kind of development have that vulnerability.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I got it. Just had the internet connections problem.
Mhm.
So, would be any way of getting this recording or?
Yeah, you'll get the recording of the class itself.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Just give me a sec. Yeah. We'll just quickly run through XSS and brute force. So let's go to brute force as of now. Right. So brute force actually has, the default password for DVWA is admin and password. I've written PASSOWORD here. If you log in, welcome to the password protected area admin, right? So what if I don't know this password? What if it's an application that is, running here and it needs, to be checked if it is vulnerable, right? So for example, there are 3 vulnerabilities that we can find inside of this itself, right? So for brute force, right? Say it's an OTP. which is of 4 digits. What is the range that I will be brute forcing in? Anyone with the answer?
OTP bypass?
Yeah, OTP. No, no, we're not going to bypass it. We're going to brute force it. Right.
We can use like burp suit if you want.
Yeah, we will be using burp suit. But the thing is that the range that we will be, running this in is from 0000 to 9999. If it's a 4 digit, it will state in this range, right? So this is basically the logic that works behind the concept of brute force. If it's a password or something like that, we can use something like password lists. There are commonly available passwords that are listed inside of a notepad file, right? And we can use those as well. So let's see. I will install Foxy Proxy on my system. This is just a pain. Let's close this. Let's wait for burp suit to start up. Don't show this. Right. So we learned about social engineering. We learned about hacking into a Linux system, and finally we are going to do a little bit of burp suit. See if we can start this again.
Arun, can I ask a question? If you,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it can be a clarity in this.
Please,
Like,
please.
I've seen some website when we just process and like when we get into it, they ask about the OTP because our system owner or maybe the admin
Correct.
on that number, the OTP goes, and how can we bypass that?
So it depends on whether it is hardened or not, right? If the OTP is hardened, then there are no ways to actually bypass that without, the fact that you are breaking a system.
As
But
we get the ID and password, when we go into it, so we all know about the two-factor verification. All is not, it is now necessary. Like previously, it was not necessary, but as we go into it, like it shows that the OTP sent to the so and so thing.
so and so number, right? So the thing is that I'll show you something. So on burp suit, something like if I enter something here and I enter something here, right? So it is capturing my request, right? It's basically like all of the requests that go from my browser to the internet are like letters, right? So what I'm doing is I'm opening the letter, checking, and then I am sending it to someone else. So I can change things here, right? So what happens in those cases, if I don't want to send that OTP, there's a request that is going from the browser to the OTP server, right? So what if I will just simply drop that request, and that's it.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, let's reload this. Yeah. So what we are going to do is we are going to brute force this, right? We know that the password is admin and your password, but say we don't know, and it's a username and password field, right? What we do in burp suit is log on to the intercept, enter any value here, and log in. See, I have a request here that says get DVWA vulnerabilities, username is equal to this, password is equal to this, right? So what I need to do in order to brute force is change these fields and check for each and every possible combination here, right? So for that, we have a tool called intruder. We'll send this request to intruder. we will set that these are the parts that we need to alter, which are in orange that I'm highlighting. And we are going to do a attack called cluster bomb, right? So we're going to set some payloads. So payloads in case of a numbered list or OTP that we suggested is going to be a numbers list, right? But we are doing passwords here. So we're going to do a simple list here. Okay. So let's make a simple list. So for the ease of it, I'm going to, type in some random things. Right. And we will have the admin in between, some more random thing, and password. Right. So this is a word list that contains my username and password. Right. So this is for the ease of it. But if it was a real life scenario, I would have downloaded a password file, or I would have brute forced in the real sense that, that will check for each and every character sequence or each and every character combination. So that is payload 1 for username. That is payload 2 that I have pasted for password. If we start this attack, you're going to see that it checks for each and every possible combinations between all of the data that I have entered, right? And it checks for all of the configurations. Let's see when it hits admin and password. So it's going to do some combinations in itself. Yeah. So what do we see here? So it has hit admin and password, right? Everything gives a status code of 200 and a length of 4882. But see, when it hits admin and password, it gives me a result of 4948. That is the length, right? That is the only difference that I have in so many requests that I have sent, right? So this is how I know that admin and password is giving me a different result, right? I might, at this point, if I was hacking into another system, I wouldn't have known that this is the correct login. And just knowing that it is giving me a different results other than all of the requests that I have sent. So what do we do now? We go to the proxy. We have captured these requests and we change the username to admin that I have seen from my payload and change the password to password. Let's forward this request and see, it says, welcome to password protected area admin, right? So this is how brute force is done in the real world, right? So that would be all of the demos for today, actually. Any questions that I can answer? It's already 9, so we'll just take a quick Q&A session. And then we'll conclude for the day. And everyone, please join the WhatsApp group. All of the details of the course, the my CV, the content, as well as the PDFs are going to be sent to you on that WhatsApp chat itself. It's in the Zoom chat. You can click it from there. Okay, fine. Anyone with any questions? No one?
Can I ask a question in Hindi?
हाँ हाँ जरूर.
मैं एक हैकाथन के टारगेट पे हंट कर रहा था प्राइवेट प्रोग्राम पे. एक ओपन S3 बकेट मिला है, ठीक है.
हाँ.
बाकी AWS CLI से जो कमांड होती है नो साइन इन, तो उससे कुछ फाइल्स निकाला है. और कुछ इम्पैक्ट के लिए कुछ बता सकते हैं क्या?
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये अगर किसी का मतलब वल्नरेबिलिटी मिला है, सो डिड यू इन्फॉर्म दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इन द फर्स्ट प्लेस?
हाँ, रिपोर्ट तो करूंगा. मतलब और कोई इम्पैक्ट बता सकते हैं S3 बकेट में? और कुछ
See, if you are trying on S3 now, this is a resource for everyone actually. It's a Git repo called payload all the things. Okay, So this again. Okay. So
Okay.
as I go on the WhatsApp chat, payload all the things is a GitHub repository that contains payloads for each and every service that you might have exploited, starting from AWS S3 to GCP to Azure to localhost service to PHP, React, Java. It contains everything, right? So you can find your payloads from there. It's segregated and you can search for AWS there and you can find it. And Rajdeep, I would suggest you to inform them and ask for money.
So, sir, it's just a request for me. Yeah, I'm just a beginner, so I have zero knowledge on cybersecurity. I just wanted to ask you. Yeah. So I just joined today this meeting. I just wanted to find out if you have the tools that you can use for Windows. If there's any possibility you can share with via my email, if possible.
So we are not gonna, use Windows in order to, go through all of the demos and go through the course itself. We're gonna use
Okay.
Linux. But if we are searching for Windows tools, there are just a few. Burp Suite can be used on Google as well. OWASP can be used on Google. Nmap can, on Windows, sorry. So yeah.
Nmap.
Yeah, Nmap can be used on Windows, but for that you would require the Windows subsystem for Linux. But if you don't want to do that, there's an alternative called ZenMap, which is a UI-based tool. So each and everything that I'm going to discuss, I am going to give a Windows alternative to that as well.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Fine. So yeah, that would be it. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
I don't have a quick question.
Before we proceed further, I'll just give out the information just once again, please. Please stay online.